Hi and welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about Resident Evil Remake. Why? Just because it's a really good game and you should play it. But without getting into any further ado, I'd like to welcome Mickey to the show.
Hey y'all, what's up?
Thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. Now, Resident Evil 4 was a game that came out and took the world by storm because it reinvented the action genre, not only the survival horror genre, but also the action genre when it comes to the third-person shooters. The first time it came around, I did not play the game, not only because I did not mess around with horror games like that, but also because the tank controls were not something that was appealing to me. Now, thank God for people remaking games. I've been able to play the remake, thoroughly enjoyed it, but Mickey, you've played the original. You know the differences between the original and the new one, things that I don't know. Can you tell us very quickly, first thing first, how did Resident Evil 4 impacted your life originally when it came out? How did you experience it? And then how did you experience the remake going back into that kind of like familiar setting?
Yeah, honestly, like when they told me that they were going to remake Resident Evil 4, I was floored. I was so excited. So I first played this probably, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago on the GameCube. So whenever GameCube came out, I played Resident Evil 4. It was a little clunky and there was some weird, there was some definitely a little bit of weirdness between like Ashley and Leon and like some a little bit of weird sexual innuendos between them, which I'm glad they
This
fully
time,
removed in this one.
it has to be
So
different.
this time I really like they made the game a little more PC in the sense of like they took out that weird like sexual stuff between like Ashley and Leon and like even Luis like made some weird comments like back in the old one. In the original one, of course, in the original one there were some things that they didn't flesh out. There were some things that they actually took the time to elaborate on in the new one, which I thought was really cool. So you get more details about like Luis's backstory, which we didn't really know much about him. We just kind of thought he was a douche, like in the first one, and how he was working for Umbrella. So I thought that was really cool. You kind of get more background into Krauser and like Lord Salazar and like the whole like origin of like Las Plagas, and also like kind of like with Ada Wong, like she kind of like flushes out like Wesker's plan for like world domination with this stupid virus that actually carries over to Resident Evil 5.
Okay.
So I really liked how they gave you more meat and potatoes in this one.
Yeah. All right. So it feels like for you it was a great experience because you see a lot of things that was added, basically like it kind of padded up the whole experience for you. But I want to go back to one thing. The gameplay back in the days. What was your experience with the gameplay back then? Were you like, oh man, this is revolutionary? Because remember that before that, a Resident Evil game, you could aim really, right?
Okay, so for the gameplay, yeah, they definitely, at the time, it was really cool because it was a lot of action that they put into it. There were a lot of like different levels that you had to go through. You also had some gameplay between like him and Ashley. So I thought that was really cool.
Okay. Yeah, because I do remember people really liking that. And me personally, when I first played Resident Evil 4 Remake, I remember when I played, because I played Resident Evil by accident when it came out. That was like really my first time finishing a Resident Evil. But when the eighth one came out and you had the vendor and everyone was telling me, oh well, he's good, but he's not as good as the one in Resident Evil 4, and everybody kept referring to Resident Evil 4 at that time. They're like, yeah, well, Resident Evil 4 also had a village, and everybody was, so it was actually starting to get on my nerves because I'm like, well, I did not experience any of that. And when I finally experienced it, I understood why people loved Resident Evil 4 so much. It's very fun, very addictive. The gameplay is really fun. Just kicking people was really fun. It doesn't really hold itself too seriously, which I think conducts even more fun into it.
In the meantime, make your way to that church.
Right. I'm probably due for confession anyway. Condor 1, out.
It's just really a fun game. Well constructed. I agree with you. The level designs were really great. Big set pieces, like kind kind of like when you think about the Uncharted games and you thought about the fact that they were very cinematics and had big set pieces. Like you mentioned, the lake scene was very big, and like, you know, going into the castle, that was pretty cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I didn't know about the innuendos, to be honest. So I'm glad that the version that I played was more like a grown up guy talking to a younger person that he's supposed to protect, and that's it. But when it comes to the gameplay, were you surprised? Is there anything that changed, or was it really smooth like butter? And you're like, yeah, they everything that they changed, bring it up to the new standards, was just perfect.
Oh yeah, honestly, like the gameplay now, like I don't even know if I could go back and play the old one on the GameCube, but I mean, playing this was just like fitting on a glove, you know what I mean? Like it was perfect. Like the shooting felt good, the running felt good, the, like you said, the kicking, the covered, like hand-to-hand combat, like that was really great. You know, and the way that they've kind of just made everything seamless and smooth. This is the reason why people are going back and playing this game 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, because the gameplay feels good and it's fun to play. Like, I think you've said this before, like it doesn't even feel like a horror game that much, but it feels like a really good action game.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you go through and you're like, oh, let me just redo it with like that weapon, and then you're like, oh, let me see if I can like get through that part just with using like a lesser skill, because of course you can, because it's a survival horror game, you can play so much with what weapon you can bring with you. Yeah, you're limited. So sometimes you kind of have to opt with a different weapon because you have the ammo, and it changes your the way you involve with the way you play the game, just very very honestly. So I think that adds a lot of replay value. I know there's a DLC as well, which I'm gonna get into very soon, as soon as I find time for it. But the question is, what really makes this game special for you?
It's a combination of things, but it is the charm of it all. Like, let's be honest, like Leon is kind of a dork.
That hurts, you know?
It seemed like you really wanted to talk.
How observant, senor.
He makes like stupid dad one-liners and like jokes and stuff like that, but there's just something about you know, the relationship between him and Ashley and Luis, especially in this one, it's very it's like 3 people, it's like Power Rangers, like we're gonna get through this together. No, like we're gonna team up, we're gonna work together, and we're gonna try to get through this like hellhole that we're like experiencing right now. So I think that's really great. I think it's the story as well. You're trying to figure out, like, since they drop you off in the village when you're getting attacked by the chainsaw guys, and then you see them going to the church, you're like, man, what is happening to these people? Is it a cult? Is it a virus? Is it like something in the water? Like, what is going on here? So it really kind of like draws you in from the very first kind of like scene that you have to experience. And I gotta get, yeah.
I gotta say, like, now that you say it, I realize that the pacing was really, really, really good in this game. The moment that the pacing stopped a little bit, that things slowed down a little bit, you're welcoming it, and then you're hunting for little stuff because you want to do the bonus little missions. And then I think really what surprised me the most was when you're trapped inside of a building and, you know, it's basically an onslaught. Those moments just brought something out of me in video games that I haven't had in a long time, where I was really panicked, I was scrambling, I was losing like the way that I would normally do things, right? Because I'm really kind of like clinical, the way you play games, you're so used to it at some point. But for one moment, I was panicking, making the wrong decisions, and then kind of it's like at the end of Tetris, when you're like really stuck at the top, and you're like, you know, you have to think quick, and normally you would put everything in the right place, but you're making all the wrong like decisions. So yeah. All in all, I really understand now why people liked it so much. I understand that it doesn't merit a game of the year necessarily, because it's a remake, because it already had its flowers the first time it came out. But I think that when it comes to doing conservation, like keeping an old gem, knowing that people can not play it really, knowing that people cannot really play it on current consoles, right? Porting it now, making a remake of it, makes it that it's there for a new generation to enjoy. It's there for me to enjoy, and I'm so glad that I've been able to enjoy this game. So I think there's something to be said when it comes to remakes. Dead Space was also a great remake that came out this year. Final Fantasy will come out soon as well. That's also another kind of remake. So I think it's something to be said by remaking old games. If you had one game that you would like to be remake from your past, which one would it be? I'm hitting you with something you're not prepared for.
I mean, they're already remaking Silent Hill. You know, and they already made Mario RPG. I mean, I might hit you with like maybe Little Ninja Brothers, to be honest, because like that was a game that not a lot of people played, but it was like super fun for me. So Little Ninja Brothers, I think 1 was on the Nintendo and 2 was on the Super Nintendo.
That's a
And I would totally play that because it's a good co-op game. That's the thing. We need more good co-op games.
I'm telling you, you just got your gamer card certified for life with that pick.
Yeah, I'm not just a one-trick pony here with the horror stuff, but I do want to say, Daniel, what would you pick?
Weirdly enough, mine is a horror pick. If you can say horror, action horror, Fear.
Oh,
Fear. Because at first I wanted to say Bloodline the Masquerade, but they're kind of already making a next one of that. Dontnod is already working on that, so I really want to see, or was it? I don't know. I'm not gonna say. I think it's the Chinese Room.
your favorite.
But I think a lot of older PC gamers back in the days played it, but I think a lot of people don't know what it is now, and it kind of went downhill after that. So definitely, I would go for that.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, man, the fact that you're pumping out these horror games, you made it through Resident Evil 4, you're ready for the next one. I'm proud of you, man.
Hey, I'm starting to get there. You know what I mean? Like, they're great games. Let's enjoy them. I feel let's really celebrate the games that are really doing something new. And I feel like there's so many other games that are taking cues from horror games and taking little elements and trying to push the envelope even more. So we're always happy to see that as gamers. We're always happy to cross over and try something new. They say that variety is a spice of life. And sometimes you just got to spice up your life a little bit. Yeah, give me some Spice Bay on that. I would like to know, audience, what is the one video game that you would love for them to remake because you think that people did not have the chance to enjoy the way that you enjoyed it the first time around? Mickey, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. And as always, I like you guys. Take care of yourself. See you on the next one. We discuss the state of the horror games.
Bye.
Peace.